now begin the proceedings about the party vote. Oh, just kidding. We will have our press conference first. So I'd like to call first Morgan Smith from Testimonies. The HB5 is a House bill that reforms Texas state education. From what I understand, the main reform is focusing on changing graduation requirements and 4 years of each of science, English, social studies, and math, so the foundation curriculum, 4 English, 3 credits in each science, social studies, and math, 2 foreign language credits, 1 fine arts, 1 PE, and 5 electives, adding more classes and specializing in endorsements. The removal of the 10 of the 15 standardized tests that we administer to students, there have actually been several studies that indicate that these standardized tests are biased against minority families and students and lower income families because they're essentially the tests that include outside of experience that is not favorable to people who kind of raised in a comfortable middle class environment. All right, next we are hearing from press 4 from Elizabeth.
Today, a new bill aimed at reforming the widely criticized Texas educational system testing and curriculum will go in front of a committee and face the first vote. Several votes required to House Bill 5 will reduce the number of standardized tests.
Well, starting at the foundation requirement, which does not include Algebra 2 as a requirement for graduation. And the reason we have removed that requirement is because we found that a lot of students who are pursuing vocational training and careers and want to go straight into the workforce out of high school. And I'm not talking about like minimum wage sector jobs. I'm talking about like training things like welding or construction or data analysis or computer technology, that kind of thing. They were being impeded by the requirements to take the 4x4 math, the curriculum requirements in the old plan.
House Bill 5 gives students less opportunity to broaden their educational career if the student is required to adhere to an endorsement plan that follows a specific track. It will force students to decide on their future career paths at an early age and may not benefit students who come from a wide range of socioeconomic backgrounds. Now, my question is, how do you plan to provide equal educational opportunities to lower income school districts?
As for your question of accommodating to lower income school districts, every single school district, every single school is required to have at least one endorsement plan, and if they only have one available on that campus, it has to be the multidisciplinary one, which includes a combination of all of the other endorsement tracks.
Here. Representative Ken King. Here. Representative John Davis.
Here. I would just like to welcome you all and thank you for all coming. We are looking forward to hearing your testimony and addressing your concerns as they come up.
Yes, Cora.
Chairman of the Public Education Committee, I am pleased to open today's discussion regarding the piece of legislation I and several other committee members have authored, known as House Bill 5. I am proud to say that House Bill 5 is the first legislation of its kind to abolish 2/3 of the universally hated standardized tests and standardized and high-stakes tests. We are wasting $500 million on testing company contracts every single year to fund a system that actually hurts our students.
Does House Bill 5 change the funding?
Change the funding? It changes how the funding is administered, but no, the actual funding is predetermined.
Does House Bill 5 offer provisions to implement career preparatory courses in schools that are not
How does the multidisciplinary track differ from your regular high school plan?
From the regular high school what?
The regular high school plan that high school is following today.
Well, the endorsements, again, they're more, I guess you can more appropriately describe them as advanced advanced electives, it provides a more specified path that's more career focused and more study focused. So like students who haven't had any opportunity to really consider what major they might want to do, or they haven't had the experience with the major they're considering for higher education, they're able to explore those kind of options in the multidisciplinary track.
So they have to create more electives? What about small schools that don't have that option?
Can you provide more information to the panelists as well as the people in our audience as to what our students will be tested on now? What 1/3 of the tests they will be tested on?
Sure. So the tests that are now required by the state include English 1 and English 2, the two separate exams that test on reading comprehension and writing and critical thinking and writing ability.
Will this go to more low-income schools, or will it still just be divided up amongst the districts, the school, the Texas school district? Oh,
I cannot specifically speak as to the allocation of funds. I can tell you that the school districts take on most of the responsibility of determining what programs their schools needed because they're on the front lines.
What if a student moves during the middle of their high school education to a school that doesn't offer their endorsement? Are we forcing them to choose a completely different endorsement that they don't necessarily want to pursue? And how is that going to affect their graduation with time?
Any student may freely choose to change their endorsement at any point in their academic career.
You say that it'd be most easy to change endorsements in the sophomore year, but there are many students that move later in their high school career, say, junior year or senior year, and I believe that it would greatly affect their high school career if they weren't able to focus, like you said, on what really interests them.
Unfortunately, in the current state of with the funding that we have with the state that we are in, we cannot just say, okay, every single school gets every single one of these pathways guaranteed forever, and if you switch between schools and individual circumstances, you'll have every single one of these options. Like
I have some students, and they didn't know that they didn't have to do this plan. Like, they were told that their requirement wouldn't graduate without it.
which plan are you referring to?
Like, they didn't know they didn't have to do an endorsement, right? Because you're saying that there's an option for students during this transition plan time, which will be difficult, to not do an endorsement, correct? Like, they can get parental consent.
Yes.
Okay, like, how will you advertise that so that students aren't locked into an endorsement plan that they don't want to do?
So we have devised a very specific kind of implementation process for that. We will distribute a piece of paper that on the top says foundation, on the bottom says endorsement, and original, regular. And it is a piece of paper that will be distributed to every single student going into their freshman and sophomore years. Every time you want to register for a class and you have to sit down with your counselor at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year and determine what classes you'll be taking, that knowledge will be made available.
I'm wondering about how local input could potentially narrow selections of endorsements to certain careers and jobs that are thriving in that area at the moment. And essentially, I want to know what remedies you have in place if it becomes to potentially reevaluate what type of courses they offer. Because essentially, you can have a concentration of one field in one area.
Are you talking about the endorsements?
Yes.
Okay. We actually see the kind of deputization of the school board as a huge asset because they know what's best for their community. We have to have the flexibility to do both without hindering their education or career aspects. So if you have an individual school district that has a heavily prominent welding community, construction community, that they have, like if they're very specifically focused on certain types of energy and you need certain certification to go into that industry, and they find that a lot of their students immediately go there, then they can tailor the endorsement option to best provide the most number of options for the most number of students.
I'm worried that these endorsements will make these careers very concentrated to that area.
Or if you have a specialty in a community, we need to enable students to contribute to that. We're not doing that right now.
They're going to feel uncomfortable. That's what I'm saying.
I understand your point. We see a similar thing with students who kind of struggle with going to in-state colleges versus local colleges versus out-of-state versus out-of-country. All right. We will now hear from Michael Williams.
As the Texas Commissioner of Education, I have the Texas Education Agency, which oversees
5 million students enrolled in public education. The endorsement options that are available under the bill allow for the course selections of the students to align with the crucial job market industries available.
How do you respond to the critics that say that plan isn't really the best option for students, or even a option for students that want to go into a university or a college?
I believe for the majority of the students, it would be in their benefit, and for the students who do want to pursue a different route towards earning the credentials for that curriculum, it is limiting, but for the majority of the students, I believe this is the right decision to make.
Thank you, Chairman Aycock, for calling this session here, and thank you, members of the committee. I'm glad to see so many members up on this committee right now, representing so many different parts of Texas. I think we can agree that what is best for an urban student is not going to be the same as what is best for a rural student. Diverse communities within a diverse economy, within a diverse state, require flexibility in our education system.
As you stated, that we are in a diverse place and different areas require certain education requirements. Is there a concern that there will be an unequal representation of different endorsements, ranging from city to city, and do you think that is going to affect the overall education of the state?
This particular legislation has ways to work with that, whether it's appealing the school board, whether it's putting together ways of lobbying to create the endorsements, or workarounds, whether it's going to be online classes with the university far away, or whether it's going to be something that they can partner with a local university on, or a local industry. Let's not forget that.
You mentioned the elimination of Algebra 2 as eliminating academic hardships for students. I think you've raised it something along the lines of we won't have any more students struggling with the same thing that he did. However, my question is, do you agree that there are students struggling in other subject matters, so we can't necessarily say that all students are going to academically progress, because they may excel in Algebra 2, but have hardships in other areas. So we can't eliminate one academic rigor and eliminate that hardships for students across the board.
Absolutely. Now, what I was offering was, of course, an anecdote that applies specifically to that student.
Well, hello, good morning. Once again, my name is Martha Dominguez. I'm a member of the State Board of Education, representing District 1, El Paso, and I'm against the bill. I represent 40 counties in which each is unique and varies across the educational spectrum, but I'll be focusing on El Paso. So the average household income per household in El Paso is $40,000, and that decreases every time taxes are collected. So this amount doesn't allow too much room for residents, especially if they have more than 3 people or children living in their household.
How do you find it detrimental for a student to be exposed to potential career options in high school?
But you said that, you mentioned that the requirements for the endorsements, they'll have to have that multidisciplinary.
No, I'm saying if their school district doesn't offer any of the others or enough of the others, then they have to choose a multidisciplinary to provide the most amount of options.
That's why I think we should have equal education in Texas where other districts shouldn't be providing that option. Early college, I know it would be difficult, but
This bill does, they provide the option for all people who don't wish to go into a specific endorsement, they can get their early college degree while still graduating. It goes towards their high school graduation plan.
Good morning. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to hear the concerns of your people and their voices. My name is Raymond Fadis, and I am against HB5. A few days ago, I was watching a TED Talk of a young woman named Ms. DeLuge. She spoke about the dangers of a single story. We ourselves as a society have told a single story about education. We have said over and over again that our education system is fair and just. That each school district has the same opportunities and advantages. This, my friends, is not true. And if we pass this bill, we are ignoring that.
Good morning. My My name is Dr. Angela Valenzuela. I'm currently a professor over at UT Austin. I want to thank the commission for allowing me to speak today and give my testimony here. I feel, although you guys have decreased the number of exams to 5, but you still look at the exams as a pass or fail method for these students, and it's a disadvantage, especially to the low-income students, especially to the students that speak another language, and so forth. And the way that you focus on retesting the students for the exams instead of remediation. And the effort should be in remediation versus retesting, because at the end of the day, a student can try to focus on how to pass the exam, but not focus on the knowledge of the exam. So the effort should be on remediation.
In states that have adopted the Common Core state standards, students will need to take at least 3 years of mathematics to reach the CCNR line identified in the standards. The CCS also presumes that students will take 4 years of ELA literacy, and the ELA literacy courses will be aligned with the CCS. States and districts will also need to integrate the literacy standards across all other disciplines, including history, social studies, science, and technical courses. Local education agencies have the authority to, and often do, add additional graduation requirements to minimum state requirements to earn a diploma.
I realize it may seem redundant for me to stand up here and testify, considering I am the sponsor of HB5. I want to thank Mr. Acock for writing this revolutionary piece of legislation. This piece is just too important to me, guys. It's important to me, but it's important to the children of this great state. I have talked to principals, I have talked to teachers, I have talked to students. We all want to reduce testing. I think that it's time we start listening to the great people of Texas and their outcry for education reform. We must start somewhere, and somewhere is right here. It is right now. It is with HB5.
And I am for this bill for many reasons. I can graduate and go straight into a career path. I can directly affect my community positively. I don't need Algebra 2 to do this. I don't need many of the classes on the distinguished list to do this. I can graduate with the foundation 22 credits and go straight into my career. 15 tests are stressful. As a high school student, many of us spend so much time figuring out how we're going to pass 15 tests just to get a diploma that we do actually knowing the material, learning the material. Do you want to go off to college? Can still take those classes and have more teachers focus on them rather than teaching me about things I quite frankly don't really care about, nor do I need. I'm not a policymaker or an education expert, as many of you here on the panel or those who've gone before me, but I do know what spending class is like, and I am an expert on my future. Voting for House Bill 5 is voting for parents and students to have the opportunity to decide their futures. There's more than one pathway to success, and HB5 provides that. Thank you for your time.
To account when we know that our focus is addressing students. I'm going to offer a few closing remarks. I ask you, as the committee members, if our current system is better than what we can create with House Bill 5, we effectively and instantaneously abolish 10 of these standardized tests. We provide option pathways for our students, those who want to pursue higher education. Both pathways, and including the default pathway, include an Algebra 2 requirement. But by removing the overall, the extremely rigorous graduation requirement that keeps Algebra 2 in there, we remove an entire option for students who know what they want to do.
We should propose an amendment. First of all, that students, when meeting one-on-one with their counselor, should be informed that with parental consent, they don't have to have an endorsement. Secondly, that Algebra 2 is required for entrance into four-year universities and will be on material on the SAT. And we should make sure that the issues with minorities and problems with tracking and testing and their effect on minorities should be prioritized into their own bill, because how minorities are affected by our education system deserves to be special attention to their own bill and not wrapped up in HB5.
Yes.
So with that,
All right, considering the new amendment and the provisions that it requires, in addition to the pre-existing standards that address the quality of education and the concerns of lower income and minority students, we will now move to take a vote on this bill.
Joe Deschanel. Representative Harold Dutton Jr. Representative Dan Huberty. Representative Alma Allen. Representative Mike Villarreal. Representative Justin Rodriguez. Representative Marsha Carney. Representative Bennett Ratliff. Nay. Yay. Yay. Representative Ken King. Representative John Davis. Chairman Acock, you have passed your bill.